All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's CWEA webinar. This is our second COVID-19 webinar. I'm Kevin Calderwood, CWEA President and a Senior Project Manager with HDR in Folsom, California. And today we'll be discussing the continuity of operations and emergency staffing. We want to thank today's speakers and their organizations for stepping up to present. Thank you to the City of San Jose, City of Modesto, and CASA. Sorry, I'm trying to control the presentation and it's running a little slow. My apologies. We also want to thank Dudek for supporting the webinar. They're our sponsor today. This is Dudek's 40th anniversary, so please give some online thanks to the folks at Dudek. We have 800 people registered today. Even though we're not all able to get together at annual conference, we still have important information to share. Thank you all for being here. I know there's a brighter day to come. For now, let's continue helping each other, sharing what we learn, and reaching out to support one another. This is a stressful time in the world right now, and I just wanted to remind folks that if you, a coworker, or a loved one are struggling with these changes, remember that many employer benefit programs include an employee assistance program that can offer counseling services. Take advantage of these programs. There's support for anyone who needs to talk. Our webinar next week will be on collection systems. The topic is managing collection systems during the coronavirus pandemic, and we'll add a registration link to the chat box if you want to sign up today. Sorry, waiting for the screen to change again. Here we go. This is CWEA's standard disclaimer. I'm not going to read all that, but I will move on. And our moderator today is Jim Fisher from the State Water Board's Office of Enforcement. Jim and the team at the State Water Board are collecting and sharing coronavirus case studies, including the stories we'll hear today. Jim, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. And thank you to everyone at CWEA behind the scenes put this on. We're very grateful to be part of this webinar. And I'd just like to shout out right away to the first responders out there, like the medical community folks, and utilities that are working, operators, managers, directors, the boards that are all supporting the systems and keeping them operating and maintaining them through the epidemic. So your professionalism really doesn't go unnoticed. Again, we're very excited to hear from the folks speaking today, and also through the Q&A session. I'll do my best to run that. We're going to try and use the Q&A versus the chat today. With over 800 folks on here, we probably won't get to every question, but we will be reviewing those and answering them later. So please feel part of the webinar, and we'll do our best. I've got Brian Elder, our senior engineer from my office, on the phone or on the webinar, along with our ELAP folks. So, you know, behind the scenes, if you have questions for any of them, we can see about getting them to them and answering them. We're doing what we can to reach out to some of the facilities, the treatment facilities, collections offices. We've been calling a few, and many people have reached out to us proactively. We really appreciate that, to help our regional boards, our Division of Drinking Water field offices on the front lines keep apprised of the best practices that you all are doing, or the retooling during the pandemic, even with reduced resources and other operational constraints. So, you know, thank you again for reaching out to us. We look forward to hearing from more. And our organization, and we're going to start right off with the City of Modesto. We're very excited to have Wong and his team members They were one of the first to contact us to reach out to tell us what they're doing. Will's been an engineer 25 years for the utility public works, and he does all kinds of things for them on all the utilities. He's been with Modesto for about 19 years and the director of utilities since 2018. He oversees engineering services, wastewater, and water divisions in the city's utility department. We're also going to have Robert Englert. He's the wastewater collection system manager and been there for a long time, 25 years. He's a certified operator, collection systems operations and maintenance. He's very experienced, and we see him around the circuit a lot at the conferences. We're also going to have Ben Kohler, the utilities plant operations supervisor and the chief operator for Modesto's wastewater treatment plants. He's been in the field for about 8 years and a lot of experience. Again, he's one of the first reaching out to us to tell us what they're doing for compliance. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Will.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for the introduction, and welcome everyone. I'm hoping everyone's remaining healthy and safe, and we're all practicing social distancing right now, which is a good thing. Thank you very much for inviting us to this webinar. We're very excited about sharing how we developed our emergency response plan and share with you how it worked and maybe give you some lessons learned so that all other agencies can potentially avoid some of the pitfalls that we experience when we implement our plan. A little bit of the background of the City of Modesto. The Utilities Department operates all the water, wastewater, and storm drain infrastructure in the city. We also have an engineering group. We also construct capital improvement projects. We also have water resources planning. We work with a lot of regional water partnerships and initiatives, and we also set rates. A little bit more of the background. The City of Modesto has over 75,000 water connections serving 265,000 people, and our average demand is about 46 million gallons a day. Our wastewater system has 60,000 connections that serves over 224,000 people, and our average flow into the plant's about 19 million gallons a day. In total, the Utilities Department of Modesto has about 275 full-time employees. This kind of shows you how those 275 are distributed in our department. All right, so how Modesto got to this point or how it developed the plan, we had to develop a plan pretty quickly. It was a fast-moving target as we all experienced, and this is kind of a little bit of what we saw from our perspective in terms of how we reacted and how we actually got our plan in place. So the city and the county have been monitoring the COVID-19 coronavirus since the inception, but on May 2nd, we started getting more information from especially WEF and AWWA, CWEA, so we started cascading that information to staff just to take precautionary measures such as wearing face masks, PPEs, washing up the hands. So, we were getting that information out there to staff. So on March 5th, the leadership staff and I started discussing what could happen if we had a big chunk of our workforce go out sick due to coronavirus. So we started discussing what we could do with a limited workforce. March 11th, the Stanislaus County received 2 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. So then we started reacting, and so we decided to start developing our emergency response plan on the 13th of March. We ended up meeting on a conference call on the 16th, practicing social distancing, and we developed a emergency response plan. And we spent a lot of time. The good thing is that we had a lot of information ahead of us already planned due to trying to plan for flooding and earthquakes, and we just had to delicately shift it to a pandemic, which none of us had experience with pandemic. But what we did know was what we did have experience is working with our workforce and what we could do with potentially limited staffing. So on the 17th, we did go through and determine which positions and key infrastructure were needed in order for us to provide key utilities to our customers, especially water and wastewater. On the 18th, we decided, based on the developed emergency response plan, on a 50-50 work schedule. And I will go through, and we'll be able to go through that 50-50 work schedule and what that entailed in a little bit. The 19th, in correspondence with what the governor's directive was, he issued a stay-at-home order, and so the City of Modesto also did the same. So we actually stopped customers from coming to city buildings. We've asked non-essential staff, employees who were deemed at risk in terms of age or health, and the 50% that were off rotation to be sent home on paid admin leave. We view paid admin leave as essentially on call. So our expectation for any staff members, being either you're essential or non-essential, that you would be able to come in within an hour after receiving that call. If you don't come in, we would view that as using personal leave. And the other thing we did too, as a city, we encouraged all essential employees to work from home if possible. So our current activities, our city manager does a daily update. As you see, with what CWEA and CASA are trying to do, as well as the industry, where you see one of our social messages was, hey, save our pipes, don't flush wipes. And I think all of us are seeing an increase of other debris except for toilet paper going through, and it is a common problem through all agencies. So we're doing our part to remind our residents not to flush anything but toilet paper down the drain. We also have a city safety officer who actually emails 3 times per week a safety message, whether if employees are working at home, watch out for ergonomics. We just sent something out regarding face masks, about what type of face masks are available and what people could wear. We do have social media posts daily along with the city manager's daily updates. Most staff meetings now are held via Zoom or WebEx, so in order to practice social distancing. And for those working at home, essential and non-essential, we're providing as many laptops and VPN access as we can. All right, so a little bit about City of Modesto's response planning effort. So these are key components that we considered in developing our emergency response plans. First and foremost, we want to keep this as a draft. Obviously, we don't want to identify on a plan key infrastructure or key people, just positions, but it's from a safety standpoint, and in case this gets out there, we don't want to have anyone identify these are the exact locations of these key infrastructure. So just recommendation, keep it as a draft document. But the components of the plan included the background, what our operating objectives were, what we're doing currently in response to the pandemic, such as the social distancing and making sure that we practice proper hygiene. And phase 2 is implementation. So this is where we came out looking at our risk analysis for every division within the city. We looked at percent staffing available from 100 down to 25%, what we're able to do with those limited staffing. We also looked at number of staff available, key infrastructure to be maintained. There's a typo there, sorry about that. We looked at the work units that would be working during the reduction of staff, what type of schedules, whether it's going to be a regular 8-hour shift or 410s, 980s, what we could do to modify schedules to make sure we keep our employees safe. And we also had some nice little notes to make sure that we knew what we're talking about. So this is a sample of our emergency response plan, looking at staffing and availability of staff. I believe a copy of our draft plan is available online on the website for CASA and CWEA, so I won't go into details here. This is something you guys can look at yourself, but this is something that all the managers sat down within their own groups, and we determined what we were able to do. And if you looked at the 50% staff, that's what we ended up setting on, is what we can do at 50% staff. One of the things that we want to do was, as the city was making paid administrative leave available to all non-essential staff, we knew that we could be, this was a stressful situation and we needed to buy some time. So this is one of the reasons why we went to a 50-50 staff, so that at least some of our staff members could take advantage of some of that paid admin leave. And with that, I'll pass it on to Ben.
Ben, this is Alec from CWEA. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. How about now?
I can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, good. Sorry about that, everyone. Don't seem to have control of the slides here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so some of the response plan impacts for wastewater treatment plant operations involved adjusting our KPIs for plant performance. So in an effort to reduce workload for treatment plant operators, also laboratory staff, we did do reduced sampling. So a lot of the investigative sampling, any studies that we had going on, and some of the less critical process control sampling was eliminated, and we went to strictly critical process control sampling and permit compliance sampling. So in an effort to make sure the other processes maintained proper operation, we looked for other indicators for online, using online instrumentation. A couple of those examples might be airflow into the aeration basins instead of actual ammonia samples within the aeration basins, digester gas flow as opposed to sampling specifically for volatile acid to alkalinity ratios. While those are not sustainable for a long period of time, in a short amount of time to implement social distancing, we were able to kind of reduce some of that and keep the processes going. We also found that supervisors were required in order to make sure that all of our various work assignments were being completed, because we were doing the 50-50 staffing that Will mentioned earlier. That basically entailed taking our operations staff, cutting it in half. Half of them were at home on paid admin leave. The other half were at the plant. In order to accomplish that, I did have to have supervisors working in assigned locations. I talked a little bit about reduced sampling, so we brought that down to compliance sampling only, and some critical process control sampling. Maintenance was another area that was going to have to be sacrificed to some degree if we were going to reduce our staff by 50%. So we resorted to reactive maintenance, which basically we just classified that as anything that breaks, we had to go fix it. We did suffer 2 power outages during this 50-50 staffing time that we were able to manage. But yeah, the prolonged exposure to that would have proven difficult. Some of the things we experienced, communication difficulties were something we expected. So to understand our schedule, we work 12-hour shifts, Sunday through Wednesday as one half of the team, and then Wednesday through Saturday is the other half of the team. Typically, they would have alternating weekends off, and then the full team would be present on Wednesday for larger projects and shift turnover, if you will. But in an effort to isolate our staff from themselves, if you will, if you look at it as 2 separate crews, we needed to isolate them from themselves. So what we did is we changed that to an alternating Wednesday off, which allowed either the Sunday through Wednesday team to take over that Wednesday, or the alternating week, the Wednesday through Saturday team. And that allowed isolation of the 2 groups of operators. So in the event that somebody got sick or a full team started to get sick, I had a second team that I might be able to utilize to maintain operations in a worst case scenario. So after the first week, some of the things we noticed, we reevaluated each day, obviously, but after the first week, we did some more in-depth evaluation and communication with our laboratory staff. They said that we could actually increase the sampling loads. So we've identified a few more critical process controls or more critical process control samples that we were able to include, kind of beef up the workload a little bit. The communication difficulties between the 2 teams, obviously by use of log and email, is important, but we all know verbal communication is also very, very helpful. So I did have to adjust to have my supervisors work across the Wednesday through Saturday, Sunday through Wednesday teams in order to enhance communication, make sure that both sides were abreast of what was going on. But we did validate our ability to respond to emergencies. So I mentioned the 2 power outages. One of those power outages was for about an hour, and we were able to reappropriate staff, take them from less critical assignments to kind of focus all of our efforts towards getting the facility back up and running during those power outage events. So that was good to see. Next slide. One of the things I'll talk about too is our return to work strategy. I think we'll talk about later that our staff has now returned from the 50-50 work schedule back to full staff, but we still need to implement social distancing. We still need to implement other safety precautions to make sure that folks are staying safe while we're returned to work. And so I talked a little bit about staff isolation. That was definitely important to maintain when we came back to full staff. So I maintained the alternating Wednesday off that keeps my 2 crews separate from each other. The other thing we wanted to do is assign specific work locations. So I do have 2 operators assigned to a specific work location. I also assigned vehicles, so 1 person per vehicle. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have 2 people riding around in a truck together performing work. Just very difficult to maintain 6 feet social distancing inside of a pickup truck. We did identify areas that are most likely to cause transmission. For us, those 2 main areas were going to be the locker rooms and the SCADA control rooms. Any of those muster locations where your teams are going to be gathering to get their assignments, safety briefings, those types of things are going to increase the likelihood of transmission. So we ended up having people report directly to their assigned work locations. We also, our specific plant is broken up into 2 treatment facilities. We have our Jennings treatment facility and the Sutter treatment facility. And typically we would all report to Sutter and then disperse from there. But during this return to work period, I wanted to have people report directly to their work location. So that was a change we made that prevents some of the mustering and the gathering. We've provided everybody appropriate PPE, so everybody has either a dust mask or some sort of mask they can wear, gloves, hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes to wipe down the vehicles at the end of the day before the next person uses it on the following side of the week. And then our safety meetings, that was another area where we normally all gather and have our safety tailgate meetings. These have been issued via email, and then we just use a read receipt as notification that that person has read the email and the safety briefing. We'll move on to Robert. I think we'll take over from here.
Okay. Hi. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks, Ben. Just move right into it. I think. Oh, there we go. So for wastewater collections, we started off with a pretty good foundation in the background. So we had already done minimum staffing plans. We'd already done some emergency operations plan. And as Will had said already, those were sort of geared around floods and other types of disasters. But having that there already helped us get started with a pandemic plan pretty quickly. And we also had already switched to mobile operations. So we use field tablets for all of our work orders and all of our other stuff. All the staff has that. So right away we figured we can use that as a method of trying to limit the mustering in the morning and limiting everybody getting together. A couple of other things that the city has done. The city had the NeoGov onboarding, which enables them to bring people on or do a lot of stuff through NeoGov, and they had that already implemented as well. That also helped keep separate everybody and keep operations going and functioning. And in collections, we also had everybody also had a staff email. I know a lot of collections guys or field guys don't always want to use email, but we had already put everybody on an email system a while back, and that really helped us sort of get going. Initially, as Ben and it said, we stopped doing the morning muster, and our primary concern at that time was continuation of operations and trying to limit the number of contacts, but we still had people in the same trucks, but we were trying to get everybody together. And then, of course, once the order came around from the state and the stay-at-home order came around, we had to let everybody know, guess what, you're essential. Most everybody knew, but we did have some of the younger staff who was kind of surprised that they were essential and that they were going to be required to keep coming to work. So so that was an interesting turn of events for some people. So phase one, I guess, like Ben said, we eliminated all the group activities, morning musters, group safety meetings, and the like. We moved vehicle keys to the vehicle key boxes because they were in a common room as well. So just, you know, and encourage hand sanitizing and hand washing and stuff. So just initial steps that we're trying to do early on when we really didn't know what was going to happen or what was going on or much of what was going on. Try to kind of forward this. Oh, there we go. So phase two, when things started getting serious, that's when, like Ben alluded to, we went to the alternating 50% staffing shifts. So at that time for collections, I mean, we would just go to the hotspot cleaning. We ramped down our construction, and we utilized the extra equipment that we had available because everybody was on 50% staffing to allow one person per vehicle, and just focused on really the bare minimum things that we needed to get done. Now, I think that this was a good move at the time because at the time that we did this and the city went to this, we didn't have a lot of information. So information was low and the risk seemed high. So going to an alternating shift right away seemed like a really good idea at the time. And it worked well to get that isolation that we were initially looking for. Then phase three came along. Now we're looking at, okay, well, how do we make this sustainable? We'd already talked about, and like Ben said, you know, we're reducing a lot of our activities, but we know it's not sustainable long-term. We know that eventually we're going to start having problems with other lines. You know, we're not doing any CCTV work. We're not doing all these other things. So eventually that's going to be a problem. So, and I think the city realized that this is going to be going on for some time and that the 50% staffing levels was probably not going to be sustainable for the long term. So we moved everybody back to full staffing, as Ben said, on this week, and that brought about a whole new set of challenges because, again, now we have everybody coming to work at the same time. So we implemented a staggering start times, so everybody staggers their day a little bit to help. We're still not doing the morning musters, but we're still just looking for additional ways to keep everybody separate. One of the problems we did have was when everybody came back to work, we didn't have enough vehicles anymore. Collections operators usually work together in teams and back-ons and other equipment. And so we had to rent some cars in order to get those people separated. The city as a whole doesn't have a lot of extra vehicles, even though a lot of people were working from home. There still wasn't a lot of extra vehicles in the city as a whole. So we ended up actually having to do some rental vehicles. The other thing that was really kind of an unknown consequence from all of this stuff that was going on around us was portable restrooms. Our staff was not using parks restrooms because they had already been locked for homeless problems and other problems, and they'd actually we're using fast food restaurants and things to the like. And of course, once all those places closed to the public, suddenly we realized we have a problem where our staff is getting a lot of road time in order to just use the restroom. So we placed some portable toilets around the city in strategic locations in order to try to help them not have to drive all over it's just the limitation or the availability of portable restrooms was our restrooms in general was tight. And then the other consequences, when we brought everybody back, we suddenly had an increased need for PPE. So we had already done inventory on PPE and evaluated what our PPE what on hand was and our needs for PPE. But then when we brought everybody back, it increased the need for PPE, it increased the need for disinfection, and all those things caused more stresses on the workplace and the environment. But we've been working through those issues, and I think we're working on getting that solved and doing pretty well with that right now. So I think with that, I'll probably turn it back over to Will.
Thanks, Robert.
Will or Jim, this is Alec from CWEA. You might be on mute.
Sorry, I will go back and forth on that. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the previous slide. All right, so as Ben and Robert alluded to, all employees were required to return back to work on April 7th, which is this week. Reason is that the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which was signed, I believe, a couple weeks ago, expanded the leave and protections for employees. And in addition, the city did advance 96 hours or 1 year of sick leave to all full-time employees. So if any employees had any concerns about the coronavirus or they need some extra time, that time bank was available to them. This was a decision that was made. It was not made lightly, but one of the things that, as Ben and Robert mentioned, it was not sustainable to have everyone on paid admin leave. And from a PR standpoint, it didn't look well at all for the city paying employees just to stay at home. So we've asked employees, essential and non-essential, to work. But again, we asked staff, they're not required to return to work, but if they felt that they didn't want to, they can use their personal leave bank. But they were still encouraged to work from home if possible. Again, we supplied laptops and VPNs. Obviously, field staff can't do work from home. So as Ben and Robert mentioned, we provided a lot of safety precautions and hand washing stations and more sanitizers, just so we can get folks comfortable again. We did a lot, like Robert mentioned, renting additional vehicles, so we didn't have more than one employee per vehicle. One of the things that we continue to recommend is everyone to continue to practice social distancing, practicing the CDC recommended hygiene activities, and if possible, do staff rotations. So like Robert said, his start times for some of his field staff are staggered so that we could reduce the face-to-face interactions with staff coming back. And what that meant was that, we are in what we call the phase 2 of our emergency response plan. And even after April 7th, it was also announced that customers still cannot return to the city buildings until May 3rd. The staff reaction, still a lot of anxiety. We're dealing with it right now. But a majority of the employees did return to work.
Jim or Will, you might be on mute.
Like
Can you hear me now?
There he is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where did I leave off? Because doing it.
Lessons learned would be great.
Okay, I'll start again. All right. So lessons learned, don't work in a bubble. We want to make sure that we keep health and safety of the employees and the public at the forefront. We want to make sure that you work with the management team to ensure that Team One mentality. Team One mentality actually shows the staff that you're unified and the decisions made, sometimes as unpopular as they are supported by the management team. All suggestions during a crisis should be considered. There's no stupid ideas at this point. Anything should be on the table and vetted out as productively and as proactively as we can. Generally, staff is looking for leadership. So this really challenged us to all of us to put our personal preferences aside, and we have to do what's best for the agency as well as our customers. The second lesson we learned is on messaging, not over communication. We're getting a lot of information. Everyone is getting information every day, a lot of emails coming in about either nationally or regionally or within your own little city. You got to do proper messaging, because if the more information is out there, and if you don't respond at a certain time with the right message, that can go a lot of different ways to a lot of rumors. So any rumors that happen, those have to be addressed pretty quickly, because that can take a life of its own. So you need to jump on the rumor of, hey, someone in the mailroom might have COVID-19, so we don't collect any mail. Those are real rumors that go out there, and it causes a little extra anxiety and panic. So we got to get on top of that as soon as you hear it. Information is always changing, like I mentioned before. So we just need to slow down sometimes and send good, relevant messages. That builds confidence in the leadership team when you can actually demonstrate to staff that you have things under control. Third lesson, practice what you preach. You got to maintain your credibility. So when I'm out in the field talking to staff, Ben and I were out in the field the other day, we had our face masks on. So we want to also show our staff that, hey, we're saying that you need to wear face masks. We're going to wear the same thing too if we can't maintain our social distancing. As lessons for emergency response plan, did it work? So far, so good. The plan came together pretty quickly, and we believe staff responded fairly well. The good thing about our emergency response plan, it documents all our actions and identifies the potential risks that we're taking before we make a decision. And we also recognize it's a living document. So as new information comes in, our emergency response plan, that's why it's a draft, is constantly being updated. For example, like Robert brought up, we wanted to ensure one employee per vehicle. So we worked with our fleet to get additional vehicles so that we can maintain that social separation from folks. The good thing about our plan too is it had a cause and effect for manpower. So having the 50% staffing and understanding what we were limited to actually helped solidify our decision. When you're trying to make fast decisions, you got to have at least a basis of that decision. So we had that chart in our emergency response plan to help guide us. What went right? We were able to adapt and modify existing contingency plans. So as Robert and I had mentioned before, we're ready for a flood and earthquake, but not for a pandemic. But it helps to not have to recreate the wheel, and we can go ahead and take that's out there and modify it for whatever you need to. So in this case, a pandemic. It provides a great guidance document, not just for just the managers, but also for our supervisors and staff as well. And it helps instill trust and confidence in the leadership team. And as Robert mentioned also before, we recently upgraded to a new maintenance system that help keep staff maintain a social distance. What could have been done better? Obviously, timing is everything. We could have done this sooner. It comes back down to prioritization. That was something that now we're at Monday morning quarterbacking. Obviously, we could have done things a lot sooner, but again, the situation that we presented, we actually responded pretty quick, and I'm actually really proud of the management team pulling together, putting aside personal differences, and come together on a plan that was best for the city and our customers. And I'll also say there's a good start to the EPA required emergency response plan for our water system. So instead of just adding cyber attack, cybersecurity will add pandemic as well. Another thing we could have done better is if we had some more time, we could have anticipated some union questions and maybe had them provide some input on the type of scheduling and activities that we'd have, and have their supports to help calm some fears. The other thing that we could have done better on, I didn't think anyone in our industry anticipated the run on PPEs and sanitation supplies. So gave us a better understanding of supply chain and resource limitations. One thing that there's a lot of confusion about, and there's still some confusion about using PPE, especially face masks, whether you wear the N95s with a valve or without a valve, cloth, surgical mask. That would have been nice to put in there so we can at least give our staff some assurances that this is the type of PPE you wear during the situation. And then constantly changing information requires constant review and update the ERP. So again, this is a living document, so we're always going to have to change it, and you have to be pretty open to that. Outcome of our alternative schedule, especially the 50-50, did it work? Yes, it reduced employee exposure, especially at a critical time when there's a lot of information out there and a lot of unknowns, but it actually kept our workforce out of potential risk and harm. So I think it was a good move on our end. It allowed some staff, as I mentioned before, to take advantage of the paid administrative leave to help calm some fears and some fairness within the agency. And the good thing is too, our staff was already prepared for doing preventative maintenance and making system improvements. So the transition downward a little bit to just focus on emergencies, essential tasks, and reactive maintenance was not too bad, especially when you're working with a limited workforce. What went right with the 50-50? We quickly adjusted operations and still met our mandates and regulatory requirements. And the other benefit of this too is finding inefficiencies in some of our existing processes. So some of our employees who are home right now, some of the essential employees, maybe those at risk, they're actually working on updating all our SOPs so that as we find more information and discover that, hey, we could have done this better, we'll include that into an SOP. So we have a lot of staff at home writing SOPs as a result of this pandemic. And what could have been done better? We could have been a little better at messaging to staff about our ERP. Of course, looking at our timeline, things were done pretty quickly. We had to take some risk and assumptions, but now they know what it is, but it could have been done a little smoother if we had let them know ahead of time. Unions could have been involved earlier for input and support, and also understanding the technical limitations that we have from our IT department. So there's only a certain amount of VPNs and laptops available for folks. So right now we're working on finding ways to keep staff busy.
Okay, very good. I'd like to introduce Amit Mutsuddy. He's been in this current position since 2016. He's the Deputy Director for the San Jose, Santa Clara Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, one of the largest in the state. He was very proactive in reaching out to us to share what they're doing. He's been with the city 21 years, looks like a long time here. And he's also oversees a lot of the other facilities, other than wastewater, sanitary, storm drain systems, roads, bridges, and terminal buildings. He's a registered civil engineer. And I'll turn it over to Amit.
Thank you, Jim, for the introduction and moderating this webinar, and also thank the CWEA for arranging this. I hope everyone watching these presentations are doing well and staying safe. So I'm going to attempt to change the slides now. Okay. So before we begin, I'd like to just give a brief background on who we are and where we're located, and I'll go from there. So San Jose Santa Clara is, as Jim mentioned, is one of the largest wastewater treatment facility in the Bay Area, and we're located at the southernmost tip of the San Francisco Bay. We're actually co-owned by City of San Jose and City of Santa Clara, but we are administered by and operated by City of San Jose. We serve about 1.4 million people, 17,000 business across 8 cities and county areas. Our dry weather capacity is about 167 MGD. Our site is quite big. It's about 2,600 acre, but the core wastewater treatment area is about 160. We also have a very large residual solid management area, which is about 800 acres. The water that we discharge to the treated wastewater goes through an artesian slough and then ultimately connects to the Coyote Creek that goes to the very shallow part of the San Francisco Bay. So I wanted to also talk about a little bit about, before we go into the core of the staffing model, what we did as a response to this pandemic, what all the organization, and we're actually part of a bigger department in City of San Jose, which is Environmental Services. And Environmental Services has the responsibility for operating this facility. These are the, what you see in the screen are all the divisions that takes to support a facility large as ours. So we're going to focus mostly on RWF O&M today in my staffing and the impact to this operation. But just to give you an extent of the number of people involved, it's all the group you see on the screen. It's about 350 people that city employees work at the facility to support. We also have, because of the reconstruction and the rebuild of the facility, we also have a significant portion of the public works staff working and managing the construction project at the facility, along with many design consultants and contractors. So coming back to the core of the O&M group, we have 3 divisions, which is operations, maintenance, and energy and automations. Energy and automations group is responsible for generation, maintenance is for mechanical maintenance, and operation is for the wastewater operators. So I will start with the operations group. The operations group, we have, like any other advanced facility, we have the primary and the secondary and the filtration chlorine, and we divide them into what we call paired area. So what you see in the screen is primary and solids is one paired area. Secondary, we have 2 secondary processes. We call them BNR1 and BNR2, biological nutrient removal process 1 and 2. And then the other paired area is filtration chlorine. When we go to the next slide, you will understand why I tried to go into detail of these process areas. So before, I'm sorry, just wanted to go through the background a little bit before I go into the staffing plan. You might have heard our facility actually had a positive COVID-19 case with one of our custodial staff. And as soon as we learned about it, we sent a questionnaire out to all of our staff at the facility of individual account for the social distance breaching. Based on what we received, the response, we had to quarantine 17 O&M staff. This was done as a precaution and also based on the individual account of their encounter. It included 12 instrumentation shop, 12 members of the instrumentation shop, and then 3 operators and other maintenance staff that were responsible for overseeing the custodial service contractor. And that's a huge, and the entire instrument shop was absent. So that you can imagine, and now we have a critical service of one shop not being entirely there. Fortunately, our city being as big, we also have a portable portable water distribution system that runs and operates our mini water. We were able to get staff from there. We also executed an emergency purchase order from an instrument services contractor through the authority of city manager, and it got some of the employees that were readily available that actually worked at the facility before. So they were experienced. So as soon as these staff were sent home, we got the backup instrumentation staff from Muni, and then we got one staff from the instrument Tesco, that was the company name. The contractor came in, and they were able to maintain the critical activities of the instrument shop where they left off. So after the 14-day, that's the recommended quarantine period, they came in, and we're fortunate. None of them actually were infected with the virus. And they're all back at the work right now, and they're on their scheduled rotation of work. One thing I want to also mention, the custodial staff are also, the 8 of them that were working, they were also actually quarantined. And 7 of them came back, and all of them are healthy. So we have been really fortunate in this. So that's what's triggered what we change in our staffing plan. So why we want to focus the staffing changes? What we wanted to focus, what is the critical, really critical operation for our facility? This goes back to our contingency plan. In our contingency plan identifies what is our most critical items at the facility and we have to maintain and run in order to maintain the water treatment. So obviously all the unit processes and our electrical cogeneration and distribution systems. Then we have our control systems and our SCADA, and our the absolute critical maintenance repair that always happens with our critical equipments. We have a list of these equipments that we go and pay close attention to, our HVAC system and our lab. And of course, our chemical delivery. Our chemical delivery, we are actually hugely dependent, like many other plants, on hypo, bisulfite, and we also use ferric chloride for our water treatment. So let me go through the operations group, what we did. So the minimum staffing level, this is now comes back to what we talked about, the paired areas. The total group in operation is 80 FTE, which is the 80 people. These are all operators, except we have a few heavy equipment operators in this group too, for the residual solid management area. Every paired area in our minimum weekend and a holiday shift, we need at least one in every paired area. So if you calculate the primary, so we need a total of 6. Our RSM area, we have a total of about 8 employees, and we cut them in half. So 3 and 4 on every other week. Then we have the central computer room, which we call the central operating room, which has to be also put a shift of, every shift. We have one operator there, and we have also the shift supervisor one. So these are the computer room and the shift supervisor at the next level up from the operators, which are more experienced one. For the operator 1, 2, 3, they are also, we have 4, it needs anybody who works on 12-hour shifts, that takes about 4 shifts to cover all basic operation of the area. We also have a shift 5 and a shift 6 to cover for planned vacation and also do the regular work during the weekdays. What we did was we put the shift 5 and shift 6 on standby. And then we also have the more experienced 4 persons as the area 4 persons in charge of every paired area. Currently, they are also on reserve. So the best part of this is these are 4 persons that are more experienced operator, and they can go up and down in their responsibility. Meaning, if the operators are calling in sick, they can fill in for the operator shop. Or if the computer room or the shift supervisor sections are also, they're sick and they're absent, they can fill in their role too. So that created a maximum flexibility for us to move up and down. But during regular business hours, we also have our grade 5 and grade 4 superintendents. They are maintaining regular business hours to maintain leadership in every unit, every paired area. And we also have our chief plan operator, who is also maintaining regular business hours. Energy and automation group. This is the group that is responsible for generation. So we cut, basically, if we're going to go simplified, we could explain, we cut them in half. The generation group is a little bit different because they also have to have minimum staffing during swing and graveyard and weekend. So we're maintaining 1 staff on site during that time and 3 mechanics during weekdays. Industrial electricians are, instead of 6 staff, we're having 3 during weekdays. Instrumentation, instead of 12, we're maintaining 6. Process control, these are the staff that are available for the SCADA system. They are 2 and they are working on alternative weeks. So I want to go back, I think I skipped a little bit. The 3 mechanics during weekdays, we actually alternating one group of 3 working on week 1, and the other group is working on week 2. So this way we can maximizing the, they're isolating them and maximizing the social distancing. And then also the supervisors for each group, they're maintaining regular business hours on weekdays. One thing I want to mention, all the folks that are staying home, they are actually on standby because everybody's in lockdown, so nobody's going anywhere. We have on call, and if we need extra people, anytime we can give a call, and there's a clear understanding with our staff that could have, when that happens, they will be here. And we have the maintenance group. It's similar. The maintenance is the largest mechanics group. We have 5 of them are there, and 5 group, obviously 5 we have to split in 3 and 2, and the maintenance 1, 4, and 5 are working on week 1, and the maintenance 2, 3 are on week 2. And they are all on weekdays. And during the weekends also, we can call them back if there's emergency. Warehouse is also a critical function. We cut them in half. We had 4, now we have 2. Building facility maintenance, these are the staff that oversees all the custodian contract to all the other miscellaneous repair contract. They're also cut by half. The supervisors are also getting split for maintenance. They all work in alternative weeks, and they're maintaining regular business hours. And of course, our maintenance manager is maintaining regular business hours. We also have this small O&M engineering group. They are all working off-site. And they're so far, the CMMS and the GIS, they're able to do their function at staying at home. But the GIS group, we are having one all coming in every other week. I mean, alternative between the staff to our USA work and underground service alert and underground utility location and utility verification they can provide during weekdays. One of their staff is here every week. So in addition to staffing, the split week and the shift changes and all the things we talked about, we also did the following. We maintained a very high inventory level of PPE items. We actually started anticipating this in February. I know the PPE items of hand sanitizer to gloves to masks and soaps, everything is becoming scarce, but we did put a lot of extra order back in February and they were all backlogged. And we have been told by the vendors that our facility gets a priority 2. Priority 1 is the police and fire and of course in the hospitals. But we also have a direct contact with our emergency operations center. If any of our items of this PPE is getting short, we actually have a direct connection and request line with them to give us extra supplies. And that has tremendously helped us to get the masks and hand sanitizer. We were running really short in the first couple of weeks on hand sanitizers, and we were able to get them right away. We also figured out a process of emergency purchase orders. That is the authority of the city manager, and we can execute as if we determine any items that needs to go through right away through public works and finance and the city manager's office. They are able to accommodate that. We constantly updating and the COVID-19 policies and guidelines, and city is regularly communicating to all our staff. There is flash reports going out twice a day. There's all these new guidelines coming out from city manager's office, HR, OER to everybody. And every staff is getting notified right away. We are also doing more frequent tailgate meetings with our safety staff. And they are, all our bulletin boards are full of safety policies and guidelines and everywhere, every building. Another one we have started just this week is employee health check. It is actually done, we have 3 criteria established by our staff to look at self-screening before they come to work. 3 basic symptoms as specified by the CDC guideline. And as they come in, they check in with their supervisor that how they're doing, and the supervisor has a open chat with them how their health is doing, how they're doing. It's not invasive as like we are not doing the thermometer check yet, but although there's been a lot of talk about that, some kind of a check at the gate, we're not doing at the gate yet. We're also looking at retiree rehire. And we're fortunate, these retiree rehire are actually worked at our facility and very experienced grade 4 to grade 5 operators. And they are available, and we haven't yet pulled the trigger yet to get them over here, but there's 2 or 3 already expressed their interest and availability. And as soon as we have a need, we will be bringing them back. We are through CalWarns, we're also going through mutual aid. And we are becoming part of their system. I think city manager just signed in, and he's sending me the email, his signed agreement right now, and we'll be uploading this today. But one thing I want to mention about what we learned about mutual aid is mutual aid will work great for equipment sharing, perhaps for sharing some of the mechanics or electricians, but it might not the skills of operators might not be transferable across different wastewater treatment plants. And that's my conversation with the other staff, and they kind of agreed. So it's something we need to explore. So minimum staff, or fewer staff has an impact, of course. As you might have heard, that we are also in the middle of rebuilding the biggest capital improvement projects in San Jose, in rebuilding our facility. And our staffs, being minimal on the O&M side, it has an impact on the ongoing construction projects. And at the peak of the construction, we were doing about 120 shutdowns a year, so which comes down to 2 or 3 shutdowns a week. And that has been greatly reduced. Now, construction is ongoing, it has not stopped, but our participation with the capital projects has been come to a minimum. So we're doing the absolute required minimum shutdowns that are requested from our capital team, and we're taking almost a week at a time. I know there are some large shutdowns coming up, and as staff comes, and as a need arises, we get a definite schedule. We might have to bring these staff that are on standby to come back and facilitate these shutdowns. Our routine and long-term maintenance projects also been stopped, like clarifier repainting. We stopped right in the middle of when the contractor mobilized. The diffuser replacement that is coming up for the aeration tank this summer. We're rethinking the schedule right now and the shutdown. If we have to do it, how are we going to do it? And then the weekly construction meetings that our O&M staff is to regularly, go and attend, they're not able to do it. But there's benefits when staff is actually staying home and they are on standby. They're able to review some design documents. They're also reviewing some of the SOPs that needs to be updated, some of the PMs overhaul that needed long-term. We need some attention on making changes. They're taking the time, and when they're sitting home, they're correcting it, redlining it, and then when they're coming back, and they're updating those. So there is that benefit. So that brings almost to the end of my presentation. So what we have done in summary is we split the shift for various maintenance group. We have operators, we put on them the weekend and holiday and put everybody on standby. Our PPE levels, we made it much higher, almost triple the inventory level that we were carrying in a regular time. We did our emergency purchase order approval process and we streamlined it. Now we have a direct link with our emergency operations center with the city manager's office. Continuously updating our safety policies and retiree hire, of course, the mutual aid agreements. So that brings me to the end, and I'll take any questions after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Fantastic. And thanks to everybody on your team, keeping everything running smoothly. I think this is clearly a demonstration of a large, complex facility and what it takes. I'm sure we can all appreciate and learn from, especially the lessons learned. And thanks to Alec also behind the scenes, getting the Q&A running. Here's the poll. If everybody could fill that out. And just as a reminder, we're going to do the Q&A at the end. And so please enter your questions if you haven't. Okay, here are the results. Like us, employees mostly reporting through email or other means. Very interesting information here. Thank you for all that. And we're going to move on to our final speaker from the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, CASA, who we all know. We have Mr. Jared Boskol. He's the manager of the CASA's Regulatory Affairs. He's been there since 2018, promoted last year to his current post. Congrats, Jared. Supporting Adam Link and Greg Kester, who we all know. Prior to CASA, he came from the water field and has an extensive legislative background, holding a law degree from University of California, Davis. Okay, Jared, take it away.
Hi, good afternoon. I want to thank you, echo the other panelists in thanking CWEA for organizing this webinar, and Jim for moderating, and Dudek for sponsoring. I'm trying to take control of the dashboard here. There we go. So for just a quick overview of this presentation, I'll cover some resources for your agencies to perhaps obtain PPE or other equipment that you don't have access to presently. And I'll also discuss some of CASA's efforts pertaining to continuity of operations and emergency staffing during the COVID pandemic. So first, I'd like to get started by sharing some survey results from our friends at CSDA. If you aren't familiar with them, this California Special Districts Association are based in Sacramento, just like CASA, and they serve the needs and interests of special districts around the state. And so we've all been hearing anecdotally about the real need for our guys to have the PPE and equipment that it's lacking. And so CSDA administered a survey to their membership about the type of expenditures they're incurring and how they're handling some of this. And so just a couple results, out of 264 respondents, just about half said that they have had additional expenses for purchasing PPE. And more than half said they have additional expenses for disinfection of public facilities. And so, you know, we hear it anecdotally, but this is a real need. And so, and you maybe just saw Governor Newsom order 200 million masks. It's kind of a headline that just came out, I think, this morning. But what are you supposed to do if you can't get access to those masks right away, or if you don't have access to them in the interim? One of the resources that's available in the state is CalWarn. And the other speakers have kind of talked about it, but I thought it'd be helpful to just to provide a quick overview. CalWarn is the California Wastewater Agency Response Network. And their mission is essentially to support water and wastewater agencies during crises and emergencies, to make sure they're prepared. And what this really is they allow for agencies to collaborate between each other to share resources, but there's some technical and legal issues with that. And so they provide agreements that contain all the covenants that need to be in place for agencies to do this. And it's just a simple registry where you log in and you have your contact information there. And if someone in your vicinity or in your region has a need, they'll see you, they'll see your, what you have available, or vice versa, and you can get connected. So I put a link in there to their website. You can jot that down and perhaps go visit there to see if your agency is a member. On the slide, you can see on the map, there are already numerous entities that are enrolled. And so it's important right now at this time, if you're not a member, to get involved. And if you are a member, to make sure all the contact information is up to date. But it's really simple to get involved. We can go back a slide. They have a quick agreement you review on their website, the articles of agreement, and there's a signature page with all the various provisions that you're agreeing to by participating in the network. But that'll help you, perhaps find people in your area who have the things you don't have, or that you may be able to provide to them and help them out. And so this is an important thing. But what we have found is that this isn't really set up and prepared for the COVID emergency. This is more, think in mind with earthquakes and more recently with the wildfires. And so some of our sister organizations, BACWA, SCAP, CWEA, they're doing work with their membership to reach out to inform them and update them about this resource, but also to make sure all the contact information, if you are a member, is up to date, so that we can ensure better coordination between agencies. Now, CalWarn is the California network, but they have these nationwide. And so the United States EPA has also endorsed these on their website, and you can see the national resource that's there if you want to check that out. But essentially, these are systems that take place statewide, and hopefully your agency, if it's not involved, can get involved and enjoy the benefits of that. Another resource that's important is your county's Office of Emergency Services. This is the agency that coordinates with all the agencies in the county when a crisis or an emergency is underway, and they're the hub. So it's important that you're reaching out, if need be, to them. And particularly, they have a medical and health operational area coordinator, and they're the ones that have access to the face mask and some of those PPE supplies. And obviously, the healthcare workers are a priority there, but our sector are essential for the state, and so we do have a priority in there. So if the Cal warrant system isn't working, or if you want to make sure your needs, broadcasted to multiple areas, the county OES is another place for you to make sure your agency is getting connected to. CSDA did a survey of their members also pertaining to this, and they found 93 of their 264 respondents said they're working with their county and that it's being responsive, whereas only 12 said the OES wasn't being responsive. So that's a pretty good result and workout, that it seems like these OESs are fulfilling their purpose and function. So now I'll move on to another effort CASA is involved in. This is the issue of with operator certification, and we'll be meeting with some staff from the State Water Board tomorrow to discuss this issue. And to be clear, we're not asking for waivers or relaxing requirements for our affluent, but rather we're going to be meeting to see if there's a way to streamline or expedite some of the existing certification requirements, just to ensure and make sure operators are available during this time. Some of the stories we heard earlier today, it really drove home the point that this pandemic can have a major drastic impact on how we're able to perform our duties and our job functions and our services. And so if a team goes out, we have to make sure we have people in our stable who can come in and get the job done. And so some of these issues, we want to see if there's ways to just make this more readily, easily available for folks. And a couple of those issues are listed on the slides, but there's a lone operator designation for when there's staffing shortages. And it kind of seems like from the history that there were perhaps some not good faith actors working in this field, trying to get this designation to circumvent other requirements. And we're not looking to see that such a request here in that light. Rather, we're kind of looking for just a short-term, a temporary allowance to allow these loan operators if there really is a legitimate staffing shortage. Also, we're looking for treatment plants that have not a certified operator, not high enough qualified, if they would be allowed to perform the duties if they're working in conjunction in close contact with various other staff in their agency. There's also some interest in some recent retirees and having their certifications grandfathered in, or ones that had lapsed to maybe be granted a temporary extension just until we can get through the emergency, so that we really do have a buildup of people who are available to assist our agencies. There's also talk seeing if there's a way to do a temporary extension of certifications that are about to expire, just so that lapse doesn't incur in the middle of this. And then the last thing was there's reciprocity agreements with operators certified in other states. And so there was some interest in some specific things they talked about doing with expediting that process. So we'll be meeting with them tomorrow to see what kind of leeway we have. The state has issued out, expectations for all agencies to maintain compliance, and we're fully in supportive of that. And the state said, if you're unable to comply because of the outbreak, just document it and communicate with us and let us know, so we're in the loop. And our experience working with Jim and with all the other folks at the State Water Board, they're very understanding of these real constraints and real problems we're having. And so, we wanted to see the types of things we could do just to simplify or maybe smooth these processes over. Another big issue for us right now is working on the wet wipes. And we've heard story after story about our folks having to go out into the field, either because of a spill or because of a blockage. And, you know, there's some concern there with just having to be in that environment, given the cause of it and working there. And so, you know, I think the wet wipes are a big deal for us. And if you're familiar with CASA's work, we're sponsoring legislation right now. It's Assembly Bill 1672. And that would require do not flush labeling on wet wipes packaging. You know, this seems like a kind of like a straightforward solution for a lot of these products that contain plastic or are not going to disintegrate and are going to get clogged and cause a blockage or a spill. They should be labeled the right way. And so with this outbreak of COVID-19, the disinfectant wipes and the baby wipes, there's an increased usage of these, and there's increased prevalence in the sewer pipes. And so the state water board had received, you know, word from some of the agencies out in the public about the impacts they're having, and asked them to issue some guidance about this. And the water board issued a great statement about what not to be flushing down and the wipes, what not to be flushing down the toilet. And this caught the attention of a lot of different media outlets, who then, you know, began to pursue and investigate, you know, what this was pertaining to and whatnot. And it resulted in our staff having multiple interviews with newspapers around the state, you know, describing the problem, describing how the bill would help that. And so we're in the middle of negotiations right now with the wipes manufacturers, really trying to hammer out a definition of what products are covered by this labeling requirement and how quickly they have to comply with updating labeling. And it's an ongoing process. We've been working on it for about 1.5 years now, and we're hoping we're about to reach an agreement. But, you know, I can't promise it yet, and need to remain diligent in the work there. But that's been, you know, some work we've been doing to try to hopefully provide more relief for you all out in the field. And then the last thing I want to talk about is a webpage that we launched. It's aggregated a ton of resources from all sorts of sources, including federal, state, local, and other research organizations and other trade associations. And so you can check that out. It's casaweb.org /COVID-19. But we have information about agency planning, continuity of operations, emergency staffing, documents to provide employees, and just dealing with the crisis, FAQs for employees and staff in offices. Numerous agencies, including Modesto, provided us with resources that we could share, so you could see how other agencies were handling issues and some of the materials they produced to share with their workforce. And we found that this has been very helpful, especially for some of the medium and smaller agencies that don't have as extensive of communications teams to develop this type of content. We can kind of have this hosted on our website, but there's also information on there on worker safety and on some of the state and federal actions that are going on. We also have a communications toolkit that was just recently added in there, which will be helpful too. So hopefully if you haven't checked that out, you can. And to close here, just to provide some contact information, Greg Kester, I'm sure you all know him. He's a great resource for us, and he moderated the meeting last week. And there's my contact, the representative from CSDA who shared the survey results. She's also coordinating, her name is Alyssa, and she's coordinating with throughout the regions for CSDA's membership to make sure that they have the things they need. So if your agency is a district and you're a member of CSDA, make sure to get connected to them. And then also your regional associations, depending on the part of the state you're in. Lori and Debbie and Steve are also doing great work, and make sure you get connected to them because CASA is working with them together. So with that, I'd like to again thank CWEA for hosting this and facilitating it, Dudek for sponsoring, and Mr. Jim Fisher for moderating it today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very fantastic information. Thank you so much. Very comprehensive. Big hand shout out to all the speakers. This was really fantastic. And thank you to all of you. We have a ton of questions that have been, some of them been answered by Alec, who we're working hard behind the scenes. Big thank you to them. I'll do what I can here to go through the ones that we have, and then I'm going to get out of the way and turn it over to the panelists. So the first one's on safety for the panelists. There's been a lot of questions about PPE recommendations and the new cloth recommendations by CDC? How are you dealing with, bringing staff in and making sure they're safe to return to work? All those kind of things. So I'll turn it back over to the panelists for answers.
This is Will with the City of Modesto. This is a question that was in the Q&A too, and I responded to that. What the city safety officer has done is that actually a pretty nice little graphic that he shows where certain masks are needed. So essentially for the first responders and especially for the health workers, those N95 masks are recommended to go there. And if you can sew the cloth mask or any other type of mask that we can use, like dust masks, we can use those in our area. So it kind of clarified a little bit, but obviously all this information is changing by the minute, it seems. So for right now, we're recommending folks, if they can make their cloth masks, and if the environment is ready for it. I mean, if you're in the right environment, the cloth mask will work. Obviously, our folks in wastewater have other, not just COVID-19, but for other reasons, they have to have the N95 mask too. But we're looking at the staff of how we can preserve some of those N95 masks and use alternative masks. Again, any type of, especially with cloth masks, not to protect you from other people, but protect other people from you, potentially, because a lot of, like 50% of people, I think, are asymptomatic with this COVID-19. So it's a really good thing to practice, especially if you can't keep your social distancing.
I can add to that. This is Amit, Mutsuddy, San Jose. We have similar kind of approach. It's not mandated that staff wears masks, but social distancing is what we are emphasizing a lot. In regular workspaces, to break rooms, to when they're working out in the field, make sure you are 6 to 8 feet away. And when it's absolutely not possible, we are recommending them to wear masks, like when they're working on control system or electrical gears. So question have come up on the electrical gears, those N95 masks are not fire rated. So in those circumstances, we are using face shields. That's what they're supposed to use anyway for arc flash protection. Also, in some of our staffs are also having respirators, and the respirators are individually designed, and we have adequate stock of the cartridges in our warehouse. So they are also using that in whoever has them. So
Fantastic. Thank you, Amit. A couple maybe for you, Amit. Do you have any mission critical skill sets you might be willing to share?
the mission critical skill sets includes the operators, wastewater mechanics, industrial electricians, instrument tech, process control specialist, which is our SCADA staff, some of the heavy equipment operator, and lab.
Thank you. And is there anything you're doing or Modesto's doing to coordinate with police and fire on the emergencies?
Yeah.
Sorry, is that a question for me, Jim?
Or Modesto?
Either one.
Oh, Amit, do you want to respond first, and I can follow up?
Yes, yeah, we are connected with the city's emergency operations center, which is the connection to all our emergency response teams, including police and fire. That's how we were able to share our resources for inventory. Actually, police and fire knows exactly how many N95 masks we have, or gloves, or Purell we got. So far, we have been able to share when we are running low and they are getting it. Of course, firefighters and policemen are the first in line, and they are much more exposed to this than probably a wastewater operator.
Okay, over to Bill.
Yeah, and I'll second what Amit said too. We coordinate, we're part of the Emergency Operations Center as well too. So we've kept a running tab on all the type of PPEs that are available citywide. Obviously, we're all one city, so we want to make sure resources are shared. Right now, I think we're doing okay, but of course, everyone's running low on supplies. So it's a time for us to start looking at alternative methods and continue that coordination. I agree with Amit that a lot of the essential PPEs need to go to the frontline first responders and health professionals.
Thank you, Will. And then I just wanted to put a plug in. CWEA had a webinar a week and a half ago or so on about safety, and that's posted on the CWEA website for a lot of the questions that are still coming in. We have a ton of questions on operations. It looks like we might go over 5 or 10 minutes. Hopefully people can stay on that are interested. With cleaning, a lot of folks asking about cleaning. Modesto, San Jose, what are you doing with your cleaning programs right now? Are they being changed, and in what way?
Yes, I can take that, Jim. Cleaning program, one of the critical services I should have mentioned is the custodial services. And we have ramped it up quite a bit. So, their routine, on top of their routine cleaning, they are also including extensive cleaning of the common area surfaces like break rooms, computer rooms, shared computers, then the elevator buttons to door handles. And at the end of the day, they also use some kind of a very strong reagent, it's like, I forgot the name, but it's a stronger reagent that when they apply to the surface and leave it for a few minutes, and then they come and wipe it off. So it's, and they're doing it, all, checking all the other things, at least what they used to do from double their effort. So, and we are also checking, making sure they have all appropriate PPEs when they're working. So our warehouse is actually supplying them with whatever they need.
Great. Does Modesto want to add anything?
I've seen a bunch of questions on there about sewer line cleaning. And so just to address the sewer line maintenance and cleaning piece of it, we've pretty much continued all of our standard cleaning operations. Even when we were at 50% staffing, we were kind of focusing on our hot spots and our more critical PMs, and maybe some of the the regular scheduled PMs might have been pushed out a little bit, but probably not that much. And the reason is City of Modesto does have the benefit of operating both the sewer and the storm system. And the storm system is more easily sort of deferred maintenance. So we were able to shut down more of that storm side piece, focus more on the sewer side, and maintain a lot of that sewer cleaning that's going on. And I know there's a lot of questions also about the mist. And I know that a lot of agencies are doing increased vacuuming, like maybe at the top of the manhole and other things. I don't know where, as an industry, I don't know where we stand right now on the misting and whether that's how big of an issue that really is. We're still suggesting that employees wear eye protection and masks while they're cleaning.
Fantastic. And just as a quick reminder, this is being recorded and will be posted. Maybe we didn't mention that at the beginning. So thanks especially for people that are unable to attend today, that are out there working hard. Many questions on wipes. Does San Jose, Santa Clara, or Modesto want to address what they're doing about wipes in regards to maintenance?
So if it's the flushable wipes people are asking question, it's a little difficult for San Jose to respond because most of our sanitary sewer collection system is gravity based and it's flat. So if people are using, although there's ordinances and we have done a significant amount of outreach, 5-6 years ago for eliminating those flushable wipes on our collection system. But if they're using it now, they're probably sitting in the collection system and we have not seen the load yet. And this year, the rainfall has been excruciatingly slow, so we haven't got the flush. We just got some high flow last weekend and we did not see it. I know it's a very big concern among collection agencies, collection system, because that will get clogged first before it comes to us.
This is Robert again. On the wipes piece of it, I got to give a shout out to some of our people. We have a really great outreach group. They do a lot of good material that we've sent out. We got on that right away early on when the first toilet paper first started coming into short supply. We got a lot of those things out, and we've been pretty consistent sending that stuff out. So I'm hoping that that did a lot of it. But we're also seeing increased flows. So that may have also negated some of the wipes problems that we've had, because we haven't really experienced a lot of wipe related issues out in the collection system as of yet, knock on wood.
Very good. On our end, we're watching CWEA and Cal OES for reports coming in, and there are definitely some coming in there. Although we understand a lot of people these may not be causing huge spills, they might be category 3s where we have more time to report. Over on service levels, we got questions about how are they being reduced? What service levels are you operating at? If each of you can comment.
I can go first. Service level for water treatment, wastewater treatment has not changed at all. It is the same level of wastewater treatment we have always been doing, and that is our mission critical, and we are continuing to do so. What gave is our participation in our capital projects. Capital improvement projects, they need a lot of shutdowns and a lot of design coordinations and construction coordinations. We have not totally stopped it, but minimized it. And if it's needed, if it becomes absolute critical for capital projects that they are running behind schedule, then we will look at it as a case-by-case basis and bring in reserve staff to address it. Actually, we are bringing in our 4 persons coming back next week because there's a lot of backed up work right now. So next week they will be coming back from the reserve and giving us a hand on catching up with the work. So I don't know if that answers completely.
This is Will with the City of Modesto. So as I mentioned in our presentation, the Modesto's kind of gone back to the 100% staffing level as best we can. Again, the decision for that was getting the additional leave and protections from the Family First Coronavirus Response Act that gave staff some abilities to take some time off to, take care of a sick family member and all that too. So we're still seeing some people do call in, but I think we're about, for water, we're about 85, 90%. Wastewater as a whole, we're probably 75 to 85%. I'd have to defer to Robert and Ben because I haven't seen what the staffing levels have been today. But generally, we're trying to get everyone back to full operations because we are essential services. We have an obligation because we still have businesses and homes that need water and wastewater service. So we're trying to get back to normal, try to get back to more of the preventive maintenance instead of reactive maintenance. So that's one of the reasons why we need to go back as we hit our summer peak season.
Fantastic. Great questions coming in. Again, many we won't be able to answer, but we will definitely be reviewing all these and be answered by the panelists after the webinar today. We got some number of researchers on here, surprisingly interested in how they can help. Does anybody want to provide any feedback? Universities, schools?
Yeah, this is Ben, Chief Line Operator for Modesto. One of the questions I keep seeing in the Q&A has to do with the transmission of COVID in water and wastewater sewerage systems. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources to do any kind of those studies and make those determinations. Obviously, the CDC is working on that. I've been forwarding a link from the CDC website to some of these folks with those questions. They do, as best they know now, that the transmission possibility is low. But perhaps if there's any folks that are out there doing research in school, that would be something that might be helpful. Transmissibility is something we're really trying to understand with this virus.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any comments about hiring practice changes right now with the social distancing?
This is Ben again. We actually haven't been going through any hiring processes currently as we're going through this, but we did briefly discuss the possibility of doing phone conferences or WebEx or Zoom for interviews, but that's about the extent of modifications to hiring processes.
We actually hiring new operators actually this week was the first week they came in. But again, when they're coming in, we're making sure that social distancing between where they're sitting and cubicles are achieved and they're spread out. We're also giving them home study materials so they can, these are OITs, so as much as possible they can remotely work and continue to come to work and maintain social distance. So hiring has not completely stopped for us.